Hey guys, I just wanted to give a little context about the videos that are coming up and the audio clips that go with them. When I say audio clips, mostly I mean EVPs that we captured while doing our investigation. But I want to be clear in that the place that we did this, it's clearly haunted. We're very much convinced of that now. It's a golf resort that was built in the late 80s, and it's in a southern state. I can't give you an exact location because I really don't want people going down there and trying to conduct their own investigations. That's not because I'm trying to hide anything. It's because it's privately owned now, and it would be difficult to even get through the front gate. If you want more specific information, you can ask. I can give you a little more information, but for now, we're going to keep it, classified, I guess you could say. I started work there in 1989 and worked through 1991, if I'm not mistaken, and was rehired there in late 2015, in late November actually, in managerial capacity. And in the spring of 2016, the resort emptied out. They went through a financial crisis, and they laid off pretty much everybody except for 4 people, including myself. I had heard from other people that the place was haunted. Other employees had told me several different stories, and myself and my partner, that you'll hear her voice as well on some of the EVPs. We had both experienced little things here and there that didn't seem on the up and up, seemed hard to explain or whatever. But one thing you have to understand is that she is a true believer. She is basically to the point that she would believe almost anything at first sight because she wants to believe so much. I, on the other hand, as a true believer, and I am a true believer, I am also an extreme skeptic. During the process of our investigation, I did everything I could possibly do to debunk each and every recording, each and every video. I did as much as I possibly could to look for alternate explanations so that what is left, when I burned away all the irrelevancies in my own personal crucible, what is left is a pure product. What I think is probably some of the most compelling evidence. Some of the stuff I won't even post because I feel like that it might have gotten tainted. Even if somebody who was unexpected came in the middle of one of the recordings, I would pretty much get rid of the entire recording, primarily because at that point, just like in any experiment, any sterile experiment, it had been tainted and infected, and it was no longer usable. All of what we're going to post here is going to be pure. It may not seem that sensational, it may not seem that fantastic compared to the other stuff you see on YouTube, but let's face it, 98% of what you see on YouTube is over-sensationalized. It is doctored, it's not real, it's all fake. You may get the rare occasional 2% of stuff that is actually real. And what you are going to see and hear from our investigation is as real as it gets. It's as absolutely authentic as you are ever going to get in a paranormal investigation. Having said that, we need to be clear that we were not professionals. The equipment we were using was not what I guess a professional paranormal investigator would use. We were using phones, we were using tablets, we were using laptops. The only piece of equipment, actually we had 2 pieces of equipment. The only things that we had that I guess a paranormal investigator might use would be a PSB-7, which is basically what they call a ghost radio. And you can look that up and find out, what it does and what it's used for. And the other piece of equipment was a laser thermometer for checking temperature variations in certain rooms if it got cold, which it never did. I never experienced that particular phenomenon. But after the resort closed, I was assigned to the administrative offices at the clubhouse. Now, the clubhouse was a very large building, and it contained the restaurant, the kitchen, the bar, the dressing rooms, and the upstairs administrative offices. And of course, my office, which was a very large office, was downstairs. And coincidentally, my office was the original office of the man who bought the resort in 1988, who passed away. He was actually the owner of the resort, and he had passed away, and his favorite place in the whole world was this resort, and I resided in his office. When the resort closed and there was no one else there except me in that building, I began to hear and notice things that were so large, so in your face, so compelling that I felt like we had no alternative but to try to capture some of it on the recordings. So what followed was an investigation that lasted for months. Actually, it lasted probably for about 6 months in total. And during that time, we would take as much time as we needed. We would go through the building. We had pretty much isolated hotspots, places where there was the most activity. When it was just me in the building for probably about 2 months, it seemed like whatever was there took pleasure in disturbing me and making noise, mostly in the kitchen. Very loud noises, lots of racket, constantly making me get up and down, up and down, up and down, and it was almost like a child trying to annoy an adult. The incident that actually prompted the investigation, or my decision to go ahead and try to investigate the matter, was I was sitting in my office with the door closed, mostly so I couldn't hear all the outside nonsense. Something happened at the door. It sounded like somebody was trying to turn the knob and shaking the door, trying to come in. And of course, I immediately thought it was, another staff member. And when I called out to them, they shook the door even more. Now, the door was locked because it has a keypad combination on it, so you can't just walk in. But the door rattled excessively, and it startled me, so I got up and went and looked, and of course there was no one there. So, and believe me, I wish I had that on camera. But that's what prompted our investigation, and this place, unfortunately, has been since sold to an individual who essentially just uses it now as a vacation ground for him and his friends. It's a private facility now. But I just wanted to be clear, we're not claiming to be experts. We're not claiming to have any, knowledge beyond, what any individual could research online. But I can say, without a doubt, that I walked away from that place in the end a true believer. Even after I threw out 80% of what we recorded because of being tainted, or because I didn't feel like it was up to the standards of actual proof, the 20% that remained was overwhelming to me. And I will try to do a brief intro to each and every video that we upload, or audio or soundbite or whatever, to give you some context as to when it happened, where it was, and who was present, all of that. And like I said, when you look at this stuff in the context that it is 100% absolutely real, it becomes far more compelling. So keep an open mind when you're watching it, and don't compare it to all the fake nonsense that you've seen, because believe me, the fictionalized stuff is much more entertaining to the eyes, the ears, to the senses, to the imagination. When you try to create the fact in your head, or create the idea in your head that it's real, that's where the fun comes from. But it's not. So just bear that in mind when you're watching this, when you're hearing the voices, when you're seeing the stuff that happened. Just keep in mind that it really happened. None of it is staged. None of it is fake. It is all completely 100% authentic. And I believe that is what makes it so compelling. It certainly was for me, being present, being witness to something like this, to events like this, to be exposed to it for the first time in my life was extremely fun. It was very fun. It was thrilling for me to actually have my own proof. To answer the questions within myself, not to prove to anybody else that any of this is real, but for my own benefit, to actually experience something of this nature because of all the nonsense that's out there, all of the fictitious stuff that's made up and put on YouTube, and you have to weed through all of it, and you can't ever tell what's real or what's not. You watch all kinds of television shows, all kinds of paranormal investigators are out there, and you never know whether any of it is genuine. And to have been witness to something firsthand and to have experienced it firsthand removed all doubt in my mind as to whether or not hauntings are real, whether or not spirits are real or ghosts. I have no doubt in my mind that they are. Now, obviously, I cannot address every specific detail to every snippet of information that we're going to post here at this time. I can't add context to everything because it's so broad, but I do encourage you to ask questions and debate at length the validity of any and or all of what we're going to be posting here. So feel free to put things in the comment section and feel free to ask questions. I will answer as many as humanly possible. I will give you as much possible detail as I can without giving up the location of this place, because it has crossed my mind for us to go back and do an investigation again all these years later and see, since the place is still virtually empty, we feel like that, we would have just as good a luck, if not better, during the course of a new investigation. So we would like to leave that option open for ourselves. After that, maybe I'll share the information with everyone and let them know where it is, so that they can maybe visit the place. I don't know if that's possible, but who knows? This might become a famous place. It is authentically haunted. It is genuine. So, crazier things have happened. But at any rate, I'll stop talking now, and I hope you guys enjoy the audio bites and the video that we have. There will be a separate video for a separate investigation that has nothing to do with the resort that is fairly compelling, but I will give you more information about that once we post it. Alright guys, enjoy.